the mitzvah Kuf Nun Zayin, mitzvah 157 is the next one. And this is the mitzvah of involving fowl, kosher and non-kosher fowl. So birds, fowl. And so this is a mitzvah involving what's kosher, what's not kosher. Now the Torah names the non-kosher birds because there are more kosher species than non-kosher species. The common denominator by non-kosher birds is that all the 24 forbidden species named in the Torah are all birds of prey. Doesn't mean they're religious. They don't pray, not that they pray. Birds of prey means that they are kind of aggressive, and like all the animals that we eat, we try to eat the non-aggressive animals because the animal's nature has a bearing on the human nature. So we eat things like sheep and sheep and cows and chickens and that sort of thing. Now, the truth of the matter is that there are signs by the birds, but we have traditions on which are the kosher birds. We have what's called a Kabbalah on the kosher birds. So, for example, when they discovered turkey, there was actually a discussion whether or not a turkey, it has all the kosher signs. But there are people who won't eat turkey because we don't have a word-to-mouth tradition. I think they discovered the turkey when they went to America. They discovered the turkeys, and turkeys had not been available in Europe. So they went to. So there are people who won't eat turkey for kashrut reasons. They actually won't eat turkey. Now it was determined anatomically that turkeys are anatomically exactly the same as chickens. So most people will eat turkey. Rabbi Adler told me yesterday, very interesting, that in Hasidic groups they don't eat turkeys not because of the halachic concern, but simply as almost a principle, because a turkey is considered a bird of prey by them anyway, and they don't want it to affect the refined nature of the neshama. So they refrain certain Hasidic groups or certain Hasidic people. And I know people who won't eat turkey simply because we never had a Masorah on the turkeys. Most will eat turkey because turkey is considered essentially just an overgrown chicken. Yeah.
Assuming that you judge a bird of prey by the fact that it eats other living things as opposed to vegetables and whatever.
I don't know how to judge it. I know you're going to ask about chickens also eat birds eat worms and stuff like that. I don't know if that's considered a bird of prey. Bird of prey, I think, is considered that he preys on other birds or other creatures as opposed to creepy insects or creepy crawly creatures. Yeah. So I don't know exactly. I don't know what exactly constitutes a bird of prey, but that's what it's called in halacha. I'm assuming that it does not include. I'm saying that does not include what do you call it? Pigeons are kosher, and doves are kosher, and geese are kosher, and what do you call it? Duck is kosher.
Are swans kosher?
Swan.
Yeah, they're aggressive.
I don't know. The only bird that I've ever had to eat other than chicken or turkey, I think, is I had duck a couple of times in my life. I've never eaten doves, and I've never had I think I've only eaten chickens. And there are about a bajillion types of chickens. There's this type of chicken and that type of chicken and a rooster, and they taste very, very different, as a matter of fact. Yeah. The chickens are a lot of it has to do with the type of chicken it is. It has to do with the type of, by animals, a lot has to do with the feed of the animals. And even the meat that we get in Israel does not taste like the meat that I grew up on in America. The chicken in Israel, most of the beef in Israel comes from Uruguay, and I ate meat. I was in South Africa, and the meat in South Africa is significantly different than the meat in the meat in Uruguay. First of all, it depends on what they're fed. They could be fed grains, and they could be fed corn, and that has an effect on the taste of the animal. Same thing with the chickens. The other thing is, somebody told me that the reason the meat in South Africa is so lean. South African meat is extremely lean meat, very fine, lean meat. It has to do with how they raise the animals. If they leave them a lot of grazing area, the animals work off a lot of the fat. And in Uruguay and other places like that, in America, the animals are kept in a very tight area so they don't get exercise, so that's much more fatty. Now, there are other animals which are, what's it called, veal, I think. They keep them in a cage. It's not very nice how they treat them. and they force feed them and treat them in order to get them good and fatty. But a lot of these have to do with it. If you don't know anything about, I don't know anything about farming, but the farmers will tell you right away the difference in the chicken difference. I've tasted difference in different companies here in Israel in the chickens. Just that, they have different, obviously getting a different type of chicken. There's definitely a different taste. So that's the halacha as far as birds. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that in Japan, there's called cold beef, which is like this beef where they massage the animal and they feed it special.
They feed it. What's that called? They feed it. What's it called? What they feed it the healthy, the something or other. Yeah, and it's extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Organic. Yeah, the organic. I didn't know they massage it. But I didn't know they massage it. I had a Chinese guy give me a massage once when I was in Hong Kong. I was traveling to Australia. I stopped in Hong Kong, and the guy in the airport, they have a lounge. And so when you pay, I took the cheap lounge, not the airport. They have a general lounge. I paid about 20 Hong Kong dollars or something. And there was the guy said it's a massage available. And after a long flight, I figured, okay, what the heck? So I get this Chinese guy behind me. Oh, so sorry, And then boy, and I'm just picturing myself, I'm going through what I'm paying for this torture, to get. So see, I know that in Japan they have a certain type of cow a certain type of meat that raise. It's very, very expensive. Somebody just I know where it is in New York. In New York, there's a kosher restaurant, this kosher Japanese restaurant in New York. Yeah, that's why it sounded familiar. And they sell this at what did he tell me? $14 an ounce for that meat. If you buy a steak, you pay $14 an ounce. And the average guy eats about, at least 8 ounces of steak. I imagine you guys eat about 36 ounces of steak. So that's a pretty penny when you stop and think about how much it costs, right? And it's organic. This organic Japanese, kosher organic Japanese meat. But it definitely tastes different. And that's the story with the birds. Now it goes without saying that you cannot eat chicken out. It goes out there, you cannot eat chicken out, and just realize that in the laws of kashrut, by Torah law, you could have chicken with meat, with chicken with meat. By Torah law, you have chicken with milk. By Torah law, by rabbinic law, it was rabbinically prohibited, but it is a rabbinic prohibition. Just realize that in the laws of meat and milk, the only restriction by Torah law, before rabbinic law, before the Rabbanim came along and made all sorts of fences, the only restriction by Torah law is meat cooked in milk. It's got to have been cooked together or roasted together. If it's cold, that means by Torah law, if you had a cold piece of cheese and a cold piece of salami, by Torah law, you could eat them together. Rabbinic law prohibits it. Rabbinic law prohibits chicken with milk. Even cooked by Torah law, you could take chicken, you could soak it, you could dip chicken and make a chicken fondue or whatever it is that you call it. Have a chicken dog and by Torah law, by rabbinic law, it's prohibited, and therefore you may not do so. Yeah.
Would you say that eating, for example, non-kosher chicken, which hasn't been shafted, non-kosher beef, which hasn't been shafted, it's a kosher animal, but it hasn't been shafted properly?
No different than eating pork.
Yeah.
No different than once it's treif is a chazer.
A lot of people are just
it's chicken. That's why many of these kosher style, they have restaurants that are called kosher style. Kosher style means it's treif, because if the chicken is not slaughtered properly, it's treif, absolutely treif. That scandal in New York, what happened was that guy I was telling you about yesterday, he was a caterer and he was marketing chickens. And what happened was, otherwise you'd ask, well, what makes a chicken not kosher? The answer is chicken is not kosher, it's not shechted properly. Then it's 100% treif. So this guy, what this guy was doing was that in his catering company, he started marketing when he was doing kosher events, weddings and bar mitzvahs, stuff like that. He started using non-kosher chickens, and the only reason that they even caught him was because two guys were once sitting at a wedding or a bar mitzvah or something, and the difference between apparently in the non-kosher chicken plants, they smooth out the skin very much. The skin is very, very smooth, noticeably so more. And these two guys were sitting there, and one of them said to the other, well, this skin is very, very smooth. And they started talking, one thing led to the other, and that's how they blew the cover. But it is as non-kosher as anything else. If it's not shechted properly, it is 100% treif. Yeah.
I wanted to comment on a question. The first question is, it says don't cook a calf in its mother's milk. So
right.
It says calf. So
right.
shouldn't it only be technically cows, or does the cap also apply to all other?
All
red
other
meats?
beef, all other red meat. That's all other red meat, not
And the
chicken.
second thing is, I heard that the reason why the prohibition for chicken is because chicken, as opposed to like fish, for example, is that chickens are usually in the slaughterhouse because they need to be slaughtered. Fish don't need to be slaughtered, and there won't be a question whether fish and because it's bought from a different market, so you won't maybe get mixed up.
It's close. You see what it has to do. If I say to you, if let's say you have a beef lunch, so I say, what did you eat for lunch? You had some meat today, right? Now, if you said you had meat for lunch, in my mind, meat, it is beef, and possibly chicken. Possibly chicken. Some people, you might have had turkey. You say, yeah, we had some meat for lunch today. I would never think, if you say I had meat, I would never think you were talking about fish. Nobody calls fish meat. People call fish. Well, that's what you say. It could be the reason the rabbis made the prohibition because apparently in those days, there was some sort of crossover between chicken and meat, which there wasn't between fish and meat. To say nothing of the fact that you can mix chicken with meat. My wife sometimes makes burgers, which are half chicken, half meat burgers. Nobody ever mixes. Jews don't mix fish and meat because it's also rabbinically prohibited to mix meat with fish. That's why you wipe off the spoon on Shabbos. You use a different silverware between the gefilte fish, or whatever you guys eat. Gefilte fish, gefilte Moroccan fish. Yeah, or we eat gefilte fish. You eat Moroccan fish. I don't eat either. I don't eat either. I don't like gefilte fish. Do you know why? Do you know why we eat a gefilte fish? By the way, gefilte is not a type of fish. I grew up thinking gefilte fish was a type of fish. There's salmon, there's whitefish, and there's gefilte fish. That's how I grew up thinking. Gefilte fish, you'll notice, is always ground up and made into some sort of patty. And the reason they did that has to do with the laws of borer on Shabbos, prohibited selection, that you're not allowed to pull out something. So if you're eating fish have a lot of bones. Fish have a lot of bones. So you could easily transgress the prohibition of forbidden selection on Shabbos. So in order to avoid that, yet be able to fulfill the mitzvah of eating fish on Shabbos, there's a special mitzvah to eat fish on Shabbos if you like it. So then they came up with this thing called gefilte fish. It's also economical because you can put anything in there. You can use filler, you can have some flour, you could be using, if there's old shoes, you throw that in there. Anything you grind up, nobody will ever know. It'll be our little secret. So so that's where the tradition of gefilte fish, that's where tradition of gefilte fish. I personally do not eat homemade gefilte fish ever. Homemade gefilte fish my wife doesn't even make it. Gefilte fish has bothered me since I'm a kid. Once in a while, store-bought frozen gefilte fish because it doesn't taste like gefilte fish, so that I like, but not the what do you call it. You could certainly eat salmon or filleted salmon. Certainly has less problem of what do you call it of forbidden selection. You could have a nice slice of fish. There's no rule that it's got to be gefilte fish. That's just the Ashkenazi tradition.
Can you buy filleted salmon raw to grill or whatever, just completely raw and fresh from
Yes, from fish shops. A fish shop, you could buy fish in a shop where it's what do you call it? Just gotta because the fish doesn't, as long as you could recognize the kosher fish, yeah, that you could do. But if he cuts it, it's not good if he cuts it because that knife might be used. But certainly to go into any fish shop to buy the whole fish. To buy the whole fish where you know and you recognize the fish and you know that that's a salmon, yeah, by all means, if you see the signs, absolutely, because there's nothing he could have possibly done to it. Yeah.
Can you take the good from the bad on Shabbos?
You can take the good from the bad on Shabbos, not the bad from the good. If it's for immediate consumption, yeah, that you could do. That's why when you eat, I don't want to go into those laws. There's a whole complex set of laws. But the rule is not the bad from the good from the bad, not the bad from the good. So if I'm eating a salad, for example, and there's onion in the salad, I don't want the onion. I can't pull the onion out. I could eat around the onions and pull away, and I could even take out the good and put it in a separate plate if it's for immediate consumption. But I don't want to. It's a very technical, involved area.